guys, Rachel here from Confused Millennial. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm doing a little pregnancy first trimester Q&A. I feel like this pregnancy is so different than my first on so many levels, yet so the same on so many levels. First pregnancy, I feel like I documented everything. I mean, I kind of didn't because I didn't really start showing with my bump until after 20 weeks with my first baby. This time around, I say like I didn't like really start showing until probably around 16 or 18 weeks. I am gonna be getting better at it, I promise. So drop any questions below that you guys want to see covered in the coming weeks. You guys on Instagram a while ago what questions you wanted to see answered. Right before I asked you for your Q&A questions, I had done that whole like post a photo of thing on Instagram, and somebody had said a time you were struggling but people didn't know, and it was actually like at 13 weeks pregnant. I had a panic attack for the first time in 5 years. Will be a whole other video and blog post. Today I did just stick to the first trimester, and then we'll go into some of that stuff that was happening then. So first up, when are you due? I am due in June. I don't really believe in dates. With my first pregnancy, my original due date, like based off of the first day of your last period, was January 9th, but then they ended up moving it to January 15th, and then she ended up not coming for a whole week after that. I will leave a link to my overdue pregnancy vlog when I was inching up on my 42 weeks. And so very similar this time around. They gave me a due date, I don't even remember it at this point, early June also, and they have since moved that very much exactly like my first to mid-June, and my birthday is on June 21st. I have a feeling the baby is either going to come like the day before, on my birthday, the day after. The only reason I think that wouldn't happen is because I am still nursing my daughter, and I will say, like, I'm not trying to wean her, but I am a little bit nervous with her still nursing. I'll go into early labor from the contractions that can happen from nipple stimulation. She doesn't nurse a lot. She pretty much just nurses in the morning, and then sometimes when she gets up from a nap, and if she's in an uncomfortable situation. So like when we were at the doctor recently, when the doctor came in the room, she's like, new people, let me nurse for like a minute. It's not like taxing on me. That's why I'm not really trying to wean her. I love that early morning 30 minutes in bed with her. It's one of the only times I can get my toddler to sit still. That's kind of my only concern. She's also not a very jealous child, so I'm not really nervous like if she were still on the boob to see the baby nursing, because she brings me her stuffed animals to nurse all the time too. So that's kind of where we're at with it. So sometime in June is my guess. How did you find out you were pregnant? I did a whole video. I will leave a link to in the description box below. What are your first trimester symptoms? Different than my last pregnancy. My last pregnancy, I could barely stay awake. I was always so tired. I was in bed by like 8, 9 p.m. This pregnancy, I have not, knock on wood, gotten tired at all. Like zero exhaustion. I mean, that's not to say I didn't get tired at all. Like in the afternoon, come 2 p.m. I definitely wanted to just like lay in bed and watch TV and cuddle with my daughter. I was never to the point of like, oh, I need to take a nap now. Tiredness, not so much this time, but I had it last time. I think the biggest like first trimester pregnancy symptom I struggled with was what I thought was an aversion to water. I did a whole blog post on this. It turns out it was my prenatal pill. I ended up just switching, taking my prenatal to right before bed so I would kind of sleep through the nausea. But because I would take my prenatal with water in the morning, and then the whole rest of the day, every time I'd go to have a sip of water, I would kind of, I guess, just re-aggravate something in me. I could not drink water for almost a month, and water is my go-to beverage. I love it. Through that time, like, I would find things that would work and then they would stop working, so I usually kept a pot of water on simmer throughout the day with some fresh chunks of ginger in it, and I would just sip on some ginger tea for like a week. That worked, and then it stopped. And then the other thing I did was I went to an acupuncturist, so I'm a big proponent of like if you're experiencing symptoms, trying to find a solution. I truly believe symptoms are our body's way of saying something is out of alignment, something needs to change. I had a really big blockage and imbalance, like when she put the needle in over here, which is the relief pressure point for nausea. My entire wrist is like swollen, pushing back. Acupuncture pretty much cleared it away for a week and a half. Once it started to come back in much smaller doses is when I realized it was the prenatal triggering it. My first pregnancy, I sneezed a lot. In this pregnancy, I sneezed a lot too, but last time it was so bad I needed to sleep with a humidifier because my nose was getting so dried out. This time around, my nose kind of just never healed from that first pregnancy thing. I've had this like reoccurring issue. I ordered this nasal spray from Gut Ion. I'll leave a link to in the description box below. It works to kind of repair the gut lining and like the nasal lining and all this other stuff. It like pulls out the glyphosate. It does all sorts of really cool stuff. I'll leave a link to in the description box below. Both my daughter, my husband, and I are all on it. There's like an oral thing for the gut and there's a nasal spray for the sinuses, and I had heard really good things about both of them. It has worked wonders almost immediately. It's not like a saline solution or anything like that. I don't even know. I'll just leave a link to it in the description box below. I forgot all the stuff I had read about it. And the other pregnancy symptom I struggled with, especially because I wasn't getting enough water intake in the first trimester, was constipation. That was not fun. My acupuncturist had suggested I go back on Drinking Calm, which is a magnesium citrate supplement. It's really good at getting things moving. And so I started taking that as soon as I woke up in the morning, a small amount, and sure enough, it got things moving again. Other first trimester symptoms that I kind of dealt with, I definitely just felt my body a lot sooner. Well, I didn't get a ton of round ligament pain in my first pregnancy, and the little bit that I did experience was definitely much later on, like third trimester. This time around, I could just like feel my round ligaments and uterus kind of like going outward very early, kind of like sharp pains down there. That was definitely different. Like I just felt things happening. I think the other big difference with this pregnancy versus the last is just my weight going into pregnancy. We don't own a scale in our house. I haven't owned a scale in like a decade. So the only way I know my weight is when I go to prenatal appointments. My first appointment of my first pregnancy, I weighed 137. My first appointment of the second pregnancy, I weighed 122. 15 pounds less going into this pregnancy than my last one. I feel like this time around, I could just notice things a lot sooner. How long did you wait to tell family and friends? We kind of told a few people like that day that I told Eric. I started seeing a prenatal chiropractor during my last pregnancy, which completely changed my life. And it's a big reason I think I experienced so few pregnancy symptoms compared to most other women. When I went to him during my first pregnancy, I was struggling with 6 days a week, 6-hour headaches. It was brutal. And within a month of seeing him, that dropped down from 6 hours a day, 6 days a week to like 1 30-minute headache a week. And now it's very rare that I get a headache. Reagan got adjusted by him when she was literally like 3 days old. The whole fam goes there.
And what tends to happen is when that bone misaligns, it causes the whole head to prefer looking one way. And she's definitely fighting me. So that left side is rotated back. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently hold a little bit of pressure. And as that bone starts freeing up, she'll be able to look more towards the center. Important because this top bone is going to wrap around the upper parts of the spinal cord and the lower parts of the brainstem, and it affects the nerves that come from there and go down to all the parts of the body that we see a lot of kids have struggles with, right? Whether it's torticollis or digestive issues or immune issues.
I swear by finding a really good prenatal chiropractor. We actually had an appointment that day, so we told him, and his appointment is kind of like in a bunch of doulas and like prenatal classes and all sorts of stuff like that. So I told them, obviously, because they were my doulas for my first pregnancy. Eric told a couple friends that day. We didn't tell family though until just a few days before we posted it online, which is what we did last time too. If you've been a reader of the blog or listener of the podcast, which I've been doing for years, much longer than I've been doing YouTube, you guys know I personally have a strained family dynamic, which I'll talk more about probably in my pregnancy anxiety video that I'm going to be talking about. So I pretty much waited till the last possible moment. The next question is, were you afraid when you found out? Yes and no. A couple of my most popular blog posts are actually like my fears about pregnancy before I got pregnant with my first, and my fears about having kids. I think those are two totally different things. Terrified of actually physically being pregnant. My first pregnancy, I sound cliche, like I loved the experience. Completely shocked and in awe because I was prepared for the absolute worst of it. And then my fears around having kids had so much to do with like my family dynamics and stuff. So I'll leave links to both of those posts below. This pregnancy, I wasn't so much afraid of the experience of being pregnant or labor and delivery. I had an amazing first birth. I will leave a link to my daughter's birth story. It was literally to a T what I manifested and wanted, and I feel so blessed for that. I literally got to the hospital and she was born an hour and a half later, no interventions, not really concerned about all of that type of stuff. In this pregnancy, I also have a blog post on like how to prepare for labor, kind of talking about all the weird stuff I did. We worked with shamans. Like when I was pregnant, my daughter had like multiple shamanic healings. I think this time around, it was more so about relying on my own body and not feeling like I was using a crutch of spirituality to kind of feel homeostasis and at peace and balance. Combine that with just the timing that I found out I was pregnant. If you guys watched I Speak vlog, I definitely was struggling with just kind of the fear of, is it going to be possible to recreate this experience, knowing that every pregnancy is different and every baby is different, and obviously things won't be the exact same. Can I still have this very peaceful experience that I just wanted? And sure enough, I was at the beach, kind of like in the midst of feeling all of those feelings. And there was these three girls playing in the water. There was like a little tide pool, so I went in the water and I was sitting there, and their mom was in the tide pool too, and they kind of kept getting closer and closer to me. And I saw from the mom's tattoos and just the way she spoke that we probably had some shared life experiences or views. I ended up talking to her, and sure enough, she had 3 births, all just like what I've been manifesting and what I've really wanted. I just felt like that was a sign from the universe, like, you're okay, you're taken care of, we got you, you're supported, anything is possible. Like, you co-create your destiny. That was a big deep breath for me. Make sure to hit that notification subscribe button, because next time I will be sharing about the panic attack at 13 weeks. I will be sharing the baby's gender soon, and drop any questions you want to see in the description box below.